If you can catch the light, there are plenty of opportunities. We'll see whether D+ can get it done this time around, or whether it will just be a repeat of game number one, because I'm a little worried about that, Valdez. In game number one, you know, it was fun the first time, but I don't know if it'll be fun a second time.
Well, we can only watch and see. And I feel for the DK coaches as well. I feel like it's a really difficult decision to go for. You pick the same side. You felt pretty comfortable with the draft in game one. And you say, well, if the team just plays better, maybe we can win this time with one small change. I'm sure, you know, they can definitely feel the pressure from fans that say, okay, well, it didn't work in game one. Why are you doing essentially the same thing in game number two? But there are a lot of angles that DK could potentially work with to make it happen here in game two. And so they elect to do a very similar thing.
As early level 2 hit, D+ going to apply pressure in lane again. Is a awareness of where Canyon is, thanks to the early ward that Chovy was able to place down. Last time Peanut got the early level 3 gank. Doesn't look like that is going to be in the cards this time around, but I'm sure Showmaker is going to play very safe after what happened to him in the last game, particularly with Chovy setting up some stuns there, and Showmaker not having the best of time in the early game here.
Pressure. Oh, he missed that cannon. Chovy missed a cannon. Can hardly believe it. But yeah, it's frustrating. That's the name of the game for Annie, is she just pressures the lane. Like, she's always going to get poked down. She's always going to hit level 6, put the Tibbers on you. And there's no real counterplay other than taking better trades or going for all-ins. Here comes Peanut. Another potential early gank, but he's Wukong this time, so significantly less damage, you would imagine, if he did go for it.
It doesn't look like it is going to be the case. Khaled and Deft also in fog after getting that shove in, so not really in a place where they can be ganked. And we're also seeing the setup from Annie's going mostly for Airy now, as opposed to First Strike, which used to be basically the only rune that we have picked, just to bolster that laning phase, get more consistent harassing, and be able to really burn down and maintain prio, as we are getting better and better at dealing with Annie. But as Chovy showed last game, the threat of a flash bear is always going to be there. So, are we going to get more games in this one, Valdez?
My gut instinct is no. Peanut is going to get some extra chicken, though.
He is.
Yeah.
As he does, gets the smite off. And Canyon going to spot Peanut.
W? Nope. See you later. And for Gen G, maybe this time, you know, Doran just doesn't get solo killed.
Okay, but they put him on the path to become the man that he was, the crocodile that he was, Valdez. So I think, no,
yeah,
he shouldn't get solo killed.
The 0-1 Doran power spike?
Yeah.
Nuggery had a thing in the past, the 0-2 spike, where that was a very different time in meta, where there was more jungle attention to the top lane. He would often get pressured and ganked and dove, and then he'd be playing Kennen, and he would get amazing flanks, and he'd be 0-2, and then all of a sudden he'd be 3-2, and the team would win, and that was 2020. Now, Doran taking solo kills is solo deaths, I guess, is kind of more of a meme rather than an actual PowerPoint.
I mean, it's not my
get solo killed this time.
Yeah, it's not my preferred way of doing presentations either way, so I think that's fine.
Yeah.
And for now, we will maintain a low velocity game of League of Legends. And we might still see the handshake that we saw in the previous game, where Gen G is going to stack Drakes.
You don't say! This time, though, he's taking a lot of damage. Showmaker very annoyed by this situation. As I wish we could hear what he was saying. If he was streaming, we could.
Just opted into the matchup again, though. So this is something that you gotta know was coming.
Yeah. Again, it's another rough scenario. right? I talked about the coaches and how it's an unenviable position for them, especially after a loss, to go for a very similar draft, but
I just
for the
love
players.
as might have a scuffle here.
Will we? Grabbing him. Comes in. Here comes Pace. They're trying to get on top of Canyon as Pace takes a huge amount of damage, but even more goes into Canyon as he will be pushed off of this one. Peanut does go a bit far as the shield comes in. Pace takes another big chunk and a fight in the top lane as well.
I was just want to highlight I love Jonas Strong just subtly trolling Doran because every time he walks up, he's like, hey.
Yeah.
Nothing has happened just yet, and by the end of the play, we will have some summoners used for either side. Canyon was forced to flash, Kellen also using both sums, and then Chovy having to flash away and also having to use his teleport to maintain his laning lead.
Yeah. But it's always the talk of the town, especially after international tournaments for teams that don't generally get wins against other teams that generally do get wins. To hey, you gotta try something unique, you gotta try something new. And Gen G are not losing a lot, right? But instead they just select, okay, we're gonna just do the same thing, and that includes Azir versus Annie almost every single game.
Very neutral way of phrasing things, Valdez.
Yes. You know, it's a very neutral game, so I feel like it was fitting. Right?
It is.
We're not
0-0.
We're not reinventing the wheel on this one. So this time it looks like, you know, the Kha'Zix is very good at taking early objectives. That's what Canyon will do. So this time DK get the first Drake.
Pace also swapped up his runes. Last time he went for domination, this time it will be resolve, although I've actually seen a lot of Tristanas not go for Demolish, and I think in this lanes it makes sense. You're not necessarily guaranteed ways to go in and get it, although I haven't checked whether he picked it up. We've seen like Second Wind come out a bunch of times as well, and Tristana obviously also, just in general, doesn't mind being a little bit beefier because you are often close to the fighting. We'll see what ends up being the rune set later, maybe the desk we'll talk about it. I know Orcs loves commenting on rune sets.
Yeah.
In a often, I don't want to say judgmental, but fierce fashion.
Yeah. Definitely one way to put it. As we are taking the Rift Heralds here on the side of Gen G this time, so
it's a flip, because Deep Loss got Dragon.
Yeah. You remember the last game, Canyon was able to get the Rift Heralds. He dropped it in the bot lane. Got some extra plates for depth, some extra pressure. This is a gigantic wave that is going into the bottom lane right now. And Paze is going to catch up a bit in terms of the CS, but it is still a massive lead for the side of Deft here in the bottom lane. And yes, Chovy has a CS lead in mid for the side of Gen G, but certainly this time around, the Tristana not looking quite as strong.
I mean, we're again seeing the exact same issues that there were in game number 1, and it kind of solidifies that Gen G does not see this Tristana as a counter in lane, right? Because it just doesn't really get a whole lot done, falls behind for the second time around. In the previous game, Gen G was able to regain some gold, regain some momentum for this Tristana in the mid game, as again, I'm telling you, like Jonas is like waiting for it to go wrong.
Any action, any trading in the top lane, we're immediately there.
Near the turret, that's the key part.
Yeah.
But
it is Gragas, you know.
Doran has learned, it seemingly, in this game. I'm not holding out hopes for the entire split.
Well, we're still chilling out. First Drake win DK's way. Gen G got the Rift Herald. We'll be curious to see where they do drop that.